Morning, Brian.
Morning, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's your football team doing on the injury front, specifically Lindsey, Hamilton, White, Foskey, and Dorr?
Everybody is playing except for Hamilton. All of them practiced yesterday. The only one that did not is Hamilton. Doing a nice job coaching, though. I'd rather have him play, but he's done a nice job coaching.
Patrick Engel, you're up next.
Hey, Brian, we talked to DJ Brown last week, and he was kind of telling us that tackling is a big part of it is confidence, and that's most of it. And I'm kind of curious, and from your point of view, what makes a confident tackler, and how have you seen that grow in him from week one till now?
Yeah, I still think that there's some physical confidence in your ability to go and, close space, go from speed to power. So there's confidence in your ability physically. Like if he was, tackling less superior players, I think there's more confidence in tackling. So I just think as you become more confident in your own ability, you become a better tackler. And I don't mean a swipe tackler where you run up there and you try to, throw your body, which we see, unfortunately, more and more. I'm talking about, wrapping up and taking the ball carrier to the ground. That requires, a physicality and an art that, a lot of these guys, hadn't been taught. And so they're taught here to tackle properly. You don't see a lot of, we don't want guys swipe tackling. And so I think DJ's just feeling more and more confident as he builds himself physically stronger, playing more football, where he can go out and go from speed to balance and, make the proper tackle.
Eric Hansen, you're up next.
Hi, Brian. I have two for you. The first one is back in my lane injuries. Have either Bauman or Fisher resumed practicing yet? And then my second question has to do with something Jarrett Patterson said the other night. He said that Logan Diggs will critique the offensive line if they don't get things right. And I wondered, how unusual is that for a running back, especially a freshman running back, to do that?
Yeah, I'll address the Bauman situation. He is in the lineup. He will play. He's on special teams as well, moving really well. Pleased with his progress. Fisher is, he's active right now and doing lower body exercises, moving around. He's ahead of the curve relative to where this injury would normally be. Whether that puts him in a playoff bowl game scenario, that's yet to be determined, but he's at least put himself in that consideration because he's a little bit ahead of the curve. So he's moving around. He's in, obviously every day in our strength and conditioning is at every practice. He's been really diligent from that standpoint. But of the two, obviously Bauman will be playing this weekend. Logan is an interesting young man. He's quiet in some respects, but one of the things that he has a very strong opinion on is what goes on in front of him. And he makes his opinion heard. And he's right. He's got a good football IQ. And he's not afraid to talk to those guys in the right way. He does it in the right way. And they have a pretty good relationship early on in his time here. So I hadn't quite seen that before, but JP's right. It caused a little bit of an early pushback, but they've got a great relationship now.
Circle back to John Finneran. John, go ahead.
Brian, Chase Ketterer told us the other day that, he mentioned the relationship he had with your son since their teams played. Is that where you first got a good look at Chase when you went to see Kenzel play against New Prairie?
Actually, it was. was watching Kenzel play New Prairie, and New Prairie had an offensive lineman that we were, looking at as well. And, Chase caught my eye. I just really liked the way he competed. I liked his athleticism. And, we're always looking for, that, preferred walk-on quarterback that can help us in triple option. And I thought he'd be, a great fit. So brought him back to Dave Poloquin and went through the process there, and certainly glad that night happened. Got a chance to see my son play and found our quarterback to help us with Navy, and he helps us in other areas as well. He's a really valued member of our football team.
We'll circle back to Patrick Engel. Patrick, go ahead.
Hey, Brian, to follow up on tackling, I imagine in season there's maybe more limited work you can do just from limiting contact and keeping guys fresh. But I guess what can someone do in season to become a better tackler, and what does that tackling work kind of look like from Monday through Thursday for anyone who kind of wants to do that? And I like how I imagine DJ might have.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because you're not, bringing the guys down, but, Mike Mickens starts virtually every practice with a form of tackling. And so, they're tackling each other onto a mat. They're tackling and certainly not bringing them to the ground. In our bye week, we'll tackle and use what we call a sideline evasion drill, where, you tackle about 9 yards out from the sideline. So it's a shorter area. You blow the whistle if they get near the sideline. So you're working on angles, you're working on live. You've got to go fast in tackling. It's not something that you can do half speed. There's no doubt. So using the speed and then being careful with it as well. But we do it every day. I mean, it's something that we work on every single day. You just don't get, sometimes the opportunity to do that in an 11-on-11 situation. It's broken down into individual work.
John Schofield, you're up next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Coach. John Schofield with Sing Second Sports, a podcast about Naval Academy sports. If you can walk me through what the significance of this rivalry is, particularly after last year with it's supposed to be in Ireland, it gets canceled, you then schedule the ACC slate, which kind of takes Navy off. What's the importance of this rivalry getting back, back to normal with an important trip to Notre Dame? And then I have a follow-up after that.
Yeah, so who we are as a football program is built around some of these traditional matchups that this football program built in its early infancy, and Navy is one of those important ones. And we know the historical significance of this from the number of times that this game has been played. But I think it really centers around being independent and playing, Navy and having the opportunity to play the Naval Academy, because we, certainly have such respect and reverence for what, they do for, obviously our country. So this is just part of being independent, is getting the opportunity to play the Naval Academy. And now that we were in the ACC last year in a one-shot deal, it obviously put this game on hold. But, I think the significance is we just, signed up another contract for 10 years. So you can understand how important this game is to both schools.
Absolutely. And then last one for me. It's never easy to adjust from the schedule that you play to play a triple option team, particularly a team as kind of schizophrenic as Navy has been this year. Walk me through the difficulty of scheduling going from one ACC team to a triple option and then another ACC team the next week. How has it affected your preparation? Which player on the Navy side of the ball is really giving you headaches as you've been scouting and preparing?
I think it's the system more than anything else. I mean, there's been some quarterbacks in years past that have been just superior in terms of their athletic ability. They have a really good quarterback this year. But I think, more than anything else, it's the system itself that you're going against. and how important it is to be, so fundamentally sound. And you've got to win one-on-one matchups. And, that's the thing. You're playing an offense that you don't see the rest of the year. We didn't see it last week, and we won't see it next week. So you have to shift gears. You're not doing things in your practice schedule that you normally do. So it's really getting out of a comfort zone more than anything else. And that's difficult because you're so used to getting into routines. And so Navy gets you out of that routine.
Eric Hansen's neck. Go ahead, Eric.
Brian, I know that you have to give some thought to how teams are ranked being on the coaches poll. I'm wondering what your reaction was to where Cincinnati and Notre Dame ended up in the first set of college football playoff rankings.
I didn't. I think the first rankings is not something that I really lose sleep over. I think I was a little surprised, quite frankly, that we were as low as we were and that Cincinnati was as low. But nothing that I lost any sleep over because it's the first week and there's so much more movement, that's going to occur. So nothing that I got, too concerned about because there's plenty of football left. I can go back to 2012 where we were, we had virtually no path and ended up playing for a championship. So yeah, I think at first I was a little surprised, but like I said, the first one is just everybody's kind of just feeling it out and putting some names down on paper. There's so much more football to be played. The rankings later in the month will mean so much more.
Tim Priester is next. Go ahead, Tim.
Brian, this is a little off topic, but we were talking to Lorenzo Styles the other day, and he said the first time that he saw signals coming from the sideline that looked like gibberish. I'm wondering how much you work on that, when you work on that, what the auditions are like, and do you have any signaling stories that stand out, whether it's the signalers themselves or players not being able to pick up the signals?
Man, this will be chapters 10, 11, and 12 in my book. I don't want to give out too much. I started my career giving the signals myself on every play. So there's clearly, a need to, be clear in your communication. We use a number board and we use signaling as well. You have to be obviously locked in as a receiver because there are so many moving pieces. You're running back from a route downfield. We're trying to play fast and the signal is being given at the same time. That's a lot. And for a young guy, he's done really well, but there's occasionally a miss here and there. So it's our job to set up a system that we think is easily communicated. And that's where it really gets interesting. And that's where a lot of the stories start to unfold. Because as you know, there's more than one signaler and they're not all live. And many times we'll have guys running routes that were the dummy signals and have actually caught touchdown passes. So that'll tell you a little bit about coaching as well.
Len Clark, you're next. Go ahead.
Brian, two quick questions. One relating to communication on defense with the multiple formations of Navy's triple option. Is there an emphasis this week that you've really tried to get players to communicate? And will there be one person who is kind of like the dominant person communicating signals to your team?
Yeah, it'll still be two people. It'll be somebody on the back end. Our safety starts and he'll communicate out to the corners. And then the middle linebacker will work the front. So there's actually two that will actually be involved in that. The fronts, obviously have to be set by the linebackers, but the coverages will get set by the safeties. And so those two generally do that anyways. So there won't be that much of a departure from the communication standpoint this week.
We'll wrap up with Tyler Horka. Tyler, go ahead.
Hey, Brian, just a couple for you. Going back to the college football rankings, I'm curious if that's something you ever discussed with your team. like now or if ever, or is that something that's commonly understood? And then the other one is, we've talked a lot about Joe Alt, obviously kind of stabilizing the position there at left tackle, but not as much is said about Andrew Kristofic and the job that he's done. Guy has played all over the place for you, obviously, since he's been at Notre Dame, is listed as the backup center, but has really found a home there at left guard. So how important has he been to the offensive line's overall improvement?
Well, I think we list him now as the starting left guard. I hope. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Anyway, great question. I think that, in terms of what we've done from an offensive standpoint on the offensive line, Alt has been obviously a stabilizing force because that was a revolving door at left tackle, right? So having some continuity there with Joe, but, Andrew, obviously, getting the opportunity for him to work, closely with, the guard and tackle has, put that whole group together too. So I appreciate you bringing that up because he deserves as much credit as anybody else. And, that left side really coming together. You had a first question that I forgot.
He was asking about the college football playoff and whether you ever discussed it with your team, or is it just kind of a given?
Yeah, I don't normally have any, those guys watch it, they pay attention to it. I think their reactions were, yeah, it's the first one. A lot of these guys have been through it before and kind of know that, it's the first ranking and there's a lot of football left.
All right, Coach, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.